This is NBC 10 Live at Issue.
Live at Issue, Sunday, July 13th, 2008. The race for the White House, follow the money. John McCain and Barack Obama, two different money paths to the presidency. Campaign finance, how will it play out? Who will exploit the law? Whose money will win? Today on Live at Issue. Good morning, I'm Steve Highsmith. This morning, the stumbles, warning signs, and positives for Obama and McCain this week. Renee Moore and Donna Gentile O'Donnell are standing by, but first, 6 weeks to the start of the Democratic National Convention. What do we know of the money? With me now is campaign finance and election law expert Adam Bonin. Mr. Bonin is with the law firm Cozen O'Connor and has argued successfully before the Federal Elections Commission. He is particularly knowledgeable about the role of the internet. Thank you for being here, Adam.
Good morning, Steve.
When you look at the race for presidency, will the candidate with the most money be the winner at the end of the day?
Not necessarily. I mean, what it takes is having enough money to win, but it's not necessarily having the most money. That said, if Barack Obama can raise through private financing an amount well in excess of what McCain will do, which he likely is going to be able to do, is going to allow him to organize in many more states than John Kerry or previous Democrats were able to do, and that could provide the tipping point in this election.
John McCain has said he's going to take public financing, which is roughly $85 million rounded off, and you add that with what the Republican National Committee is going to make. They estimate they're going to spend, they hope, around $400 million. Democrats say the Obama campaign, the Democratic National Committee, they expect that same figure, but we're also hearing that because Obama said no to public financing, you're saying it could be much more than that.
It could end up being much more than that, and it's going to be a different kind of money. Because Obama's money is going to be controlled by the campaign itself and not by the party, he's going to be able to direct it, and he's going to be able to use it for all sorts of activities and not just media building. In particular, it's get out the vote and field organizing across the country. I mean, he's putting, I heard yesterday, 20 organizers in Alaska. Democrats haven't competed in Alaska, I think, ever. But with the money that he's bringing in, he's going to be able to do that.
So you're saying the Democrats feel that's not wasted money. They just have so much money they can afford to do that to try to be competitive there.
Absolutely. I mean, the traditional Democratic strategy, largely because of these financing limitations, has been to pick, 17 or 18 states, make sure you win them, and don't worry about the rest of America. Obama's trying something much broader than that.
Before we go into some of the details of all the money and how it's spent, would you say the system is flawed or is it out of control? Where would you put it on the spectrum?
It's flawed. It's flawed because of how much time candidates traditionally have to spend doing fundraising. And on that, I'm thinking not about the presidential level as much as Senate, House, and local races, where candidates have to spend so much of their time raising money for the next election, even after they've just won the last one.
Because John McCain is going to be taking public money, does that mean possibly that he will have to spend less time trying to raise money than Barack Obama?
No, because he's going to be raising money up until the point of the convention, because he's still doing private financing until the convention starts. He, has said that he has opted out of the public financing system and acted as though he's out of it during the primary season, and he's been raising funds accordingly.
I want to get back to that in just a little bit, but I want to talk about the presidential election in general and where the money comes from and where it's spent. The money goes to individual candidates. They can raise their own money. The parties themselves raise money. But there's other money. Soft money is one example. What is soft money?
Soft money is money that is raised beyond the limits that traditionally apply to money raised by candidates. So it'd be funds raised through labor unions, from PACs, and in the case of so-called 527 organizations, from corporations. When you're giving to a candidate, the limit is, from individuals, $2,300 per candidate per election. Soft money is money that can be legally raised beyond those limits.
And we're seeing, let's start with the first that you mentioned on the money figure, the $2,300. We're seeing that both candidates, Obama and McCain, appear to be getting around that law by setting up what's called joint committees. And very wealthy donors are giving the $2,300 individually, but then they're giving to state committees and they're giving to another committee, and they're wind up giving, instead of the $2,300, in total about $85,000, $87,000.
Sure. I mean, we've seen reports over the past few weeks of candidates holding, $28,000 a plate fundraisers, and there are formulas in place where, the first small chunk goes to the candidates, the next part goes to the national parties, and the rest go to a coalition of state party organizations that can raise and spend that excess sum.
Are the candidates allowed to coordinate the spending with those three organizations, technically?
There are different rules on each of the levels. With the national party, a little bit more so than on the state level. In the end, regardless of what the formal coordination rules are, those other organizations find ways to fill in the gaps and to anticipate where the money needs to be spent.
The Obama campaign has opted out of public financing from September to November, post-convention, which is when it would kick in. Their reasoning is twofold. One, the 527s, the other, PACs and lobbyists. They say that they feel the Republicans are going to be able to use it to their advantage. Politico and others have investigated some of this, and they say that that's a misnomer. That's a myth that people put out there, that PACs and lobbyists to date have only contributed about 1.5% to 2% of the money that goes to John McCain's campaign directly or to the RNC. And actually, the Democratic National Committee is at about 3%. But even at those numbers, that's very small.
Oh, it has certainly been a small element of the campaign so far, but I think he's right to be concerned about what happens, especially on the 527 front, once we get into the general election cycle.
It hasn't kicked in really yet with their spending.
No, it hasn't yet.
Some, but not a lot.
I mean, but there are organizations out there like Freedom's Watch, you know, which have pledged, I saw somewhere, you know, they're going to try to raise $200 million, you know, both to defeat Obama and to defeat congressional candidates, Democratic congressional candidates across the country.
A lot of these things bubble up from lower levels. After the 2004 election, George Soros and some others, who are obviously Democrat-leaning or left-leaning, they formed a group called Democratic Alliance, or the Democrats Alliance, and roughly raised amongst, I guess, 70 people or so, some say as much as $100 million. And they have spent for targeting certain states, such as Colorado, to try to get progressive candidates elected. And indeed in Colorado, over the last 4 years, you've got a Democratic governor, you have other Democratic gains. Does this have an impact on the presidential race that isn't on paper?
Absolutely. I mean, I think any time that you have movements on the local level which cause voters to rethink, am I a Republican, am I a Democrat, am I an independent, you know, that's going to reflect itself in the presidential race.
Issue ads, do they fall under that 527 category, or is that a separate category?
No, I mean, issue ads are where 527s get their money. I mean, because of the First Amendment, you know, while an organization that isn't a PAC can't say vote for candidate X, vote against candidate X, they're still allowed to say, you know, this issue is important to us, and, you know, John McCain is wrong on it, you know, without mentioning that he's running for election at the time. And the Supreme Court has said that's okay, you can do that.
We'll follow up with this and talk more about the money of Decision 2008 in a moment on Live at Issue. Stay tuned.
You're watching NBC 10, Live at Issue.
Hi, I'm NBC 10's Lori Wilson. The Greater Philadelphia chapter of Tuskegee Airmen is hosting the 37th Annual National Convention in Philadelphia, July 17th through the 20th at the Philadelphia Marriott. For details and more information, log on to NBC10.com/10.
Fire up the grill with Hatfield Quality Meats.
We all live busy lives, but there's always time for grilling a simple and nutritious meal with Hatfield. Hatfield's boneless ham steak, like our new sweet brown sugar flavor, are perfect on the grill. Simply throw the ham steak on the grate, cook for about 3 minutes on each side, and serve with grilled corn on the cob and pasta salad for a delicious summertime meal.
For more simple and delicious grilling tips, visit HatfieldQualityMeats.com and share the goodness all summer long.
Cooper University Hospital is here in South Jersey, here to treat tumors anywhere in the body, here to perform surgery without incisions, safely and effectively, here to get patients home the very same day. The only hospital in the Delaware Valley with both CyberKnife and Gamma Knife technologies is here. And with more top docs than all South Jersey hospitals combined, patients get the best in care here. Cooper University Hospital, world-class care right here, right now.
An attorney with Cozen O'Connor, an insider on the money of politics. Adam, the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, has for about a half a year now been a toothless tiger. It's been in disarray. Now it's reconstituted and supposedly can be taking action and watching again what's going on in elections. One of the issues they're going to have is that John McCain, when he was having money troubles late last year, indicated that he wanted public money and did not take any. But there's some question as to whether or not a loan he got from a bank was on the promise that the collateral was that public money that would be coming. He says, no, that wasn't the case at all. Is this really going to go anywhere?
I'm not sure it's going to go anywhere, but I know that the FEC is going to have to look at it. The Democratic National Committee filed suit in federal court to force the issue there. I mean, what McCain did essentially at his low point money-wise was to tell the bank, you know, make this loan, and if my campaign isn't successful, then I promise to opt back into the public financing system, essentially to get the money back to pay off the loan.
And obviously the McCain campaign says there was no such promise made in there. But it brings up an issue about the FCC. Many people look at that and say it is not a proactive organization. It doesn't set clear rules about what is and what is not allowed. And when it does finally find that somebody broke the law, it's 2 years later and there's no real effect.
Yeah, I mean, the FEC is a reactive agency. I mean, by law, it has 6 commissioners, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats, and it takes 4 of them to get anything done. You know, first of all, they don't act until a complaint is filed with them, and secondly, they're only going to act on things that can command those 4 votes, which requires bipartisanship, which really requires an egregious violation.
There is a question about the role of nonprofits in this. And for the record, Barack Obama was a law professor of yours at the University of Chicago, correct?
He was.
He also was active with Acorn as part of his career early on. Acorn's political arm has endorsed him for president, but they obviously have a non-political arm. That non-political arm has promised to spend $35 million to register people this fall. I mean, is that a no-brainer? I mean, we know what's going on there. They got around the law.
I mean, it's impossible because of the First Amendment, essentially, you know, to draft rules that are going to cabin every possible abuse that you can imagine. I mean, Acorn's going to go out there, they're going to register voters. No doubt they're going to mostly register voters in places where they expect there are going to be voters who support Acorn's general interests. There's not much legally that you can do about that.
So there is an issue of freedom here. In other words, Americans have the right to free speech and to express themselves. And the Supreme Court has whittled down a lot of election law over the years on that very premise, correct?
That's right. I mean, we saw that just last month in a case involving the so-called Millionaires Amendment, where Congress had passed rules essentially to try to level the playing field between self-funding millionaire candidates and those who are running against them. And the court found there that the laws in place worked a restriction against the millionaires' free speech, and they struck them down.
Does the court have any concern that millionaires and billionaires, at the end of the day, have more free speech than the rest of us because they can tell more people about it?
No. I mean, in fact, what at least 5 justices of this court have said is that it's not Congress's business, and therefore it's not the court's business, to try to level the playing field between millionaires and others, that to try to balance things was just not the kind of messing around that Congress should be doing.
Well, Public Citizen has said that the voice of the American voter is being drowned out by special interest money. Do you agree with that?
I think that's overstating things. I think that largely because of the small donor revolution that we've seen over the past 4 years, that citizens have more of a voice in politics than they ever have before.
The clean elections that some cities are running, or fair election process that they're doing, and people can look those up, but there are different ways of funding. Do they seem to be working? They
seem to be working. I mean, especially, the states of Arizona and Maine have had clean elections for the past few cycles. And what you've seen is a more diverse legislature, people not coming from money, but coming from more grassroots interests. I know of a nurse in Arizona who's now a state legislator.
Does that still allow freedom of expression, though?
It encourages freedom of expression because it gives the candidates a set pool of money with which to campaign, and they don't have to fundraise.
That works well, perhaps, on a local and state level. Would it work at a presidential level?
I think it would work in a presidential level. I think it did work on a presidential level until the past cycle or two, when the amount of money available just hasn't advanced to meet the rising costs of politics and the rising amounts that people can raise on their own.
Adam Bonin, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time.
It's been a pleasure.
Up next, whether something happened this week that is a sure harbinger in the race for the presidency, when Live at Issue comes right back.
You're watching NBC 10, Live at Issue. Through the years, many things pass from father to son, like Aqua Velva Aftershave. Smells great, cools, firms, and tones. Cool. Aqua Velva, men get it.
One flag! 6 Flags! More fun! Have more fun close to home with our new glow-in-the-park parade and the new Dark Knight coaster. Now, buy one ticket, you'll get one free. That's right, buy one, get one free, and pay only $24.99 per person with coupons from Wendy's. More flags! More fun! Six Flags!
Start your family's exploration of our nation's history at the beginning. America's Historic Triangle. Learn more at thehistorictriangle.com.
NBC10.com, the #1 television website in Philly.
You're watching NBC 10, live at Issue.
Race, the most notable use of the word nuts since the Battle of the Bulge. The English language, spying, and energy are all subjects hitting the presidential race this week from either Barack Obama or John McCain. On top of that, the National Governors Association, featuring some potential vice presidential nominees, is in Philadelphia this weekend. Joining me now, Democrat on the left, Dr. Donna Gentile O'Donnell, and Republican on the right, Renee Moore, Deputy Chair of the Republican Party in Pennsylvania. Thanks for being here. Let's start with the latest poll that's out. Newsweek magazine basically says it's a dead heat now. Obama had been up by about 15 points.
I'm excited about that. It shows that, first of all, no matter how much money you raise, sometimes it doesn't matter because Obama is really outraising John McCain, Steve. I was really concerned about that. And McCain is not out there fighting the way he usually does, and I'm concerned about that also. But still, it shows that some people are saying, wait a minute, I still like McCain because he has that experience. He gives some good information and insight where Obama keeps flip-flopping. So I'm excited.
Cowering in fear?
No,
She
not
should
at all.
be.
Not at all. No. I mean, I think Obama has done a good job of equilibrating on his positions. And one, yes, I know there's been much talk about the word refining his positions. But having said that, I mean, his challenge, and it's a challenge for the entire Democratic Party, is to try and move people toward the idea that politics is the art of the possible, and he has to grapple with what that means in real-time democratic politics.
But it is a challenge, is it not? Because the one thing that has been one of Obama's strengths, perhaps his strongest strength, is that he has the reputation of being a different person, not the same kind of politician. But by moving to the center on Iraq, or more to the center, by moving to the center on Social Security or abortion, or any of these other issues that have come up, he runs the risk of seeming like another politician.
He does run that. He does run that risk. But having said that, it also demonstrates, it mitigates against one of the arguments that the Republicans will make forcefully, and that is that he is not prepared and not considering the real issues. So I think that's the right move for him to make.
Republicans will tell me privately that John McCain is running either an okay campaign or a bad campaign. Obviously, there was a shakeup. A protege of Rove is now involved.
Right.
But they feel that there's just not energy there, that he's not inspiring enough of the Republican electorate.
He, you know, when he ran against Bush, and Don and I were talking about that, he had so much energy. He really fought. He was the maverick out there. He told people how he really felt. Now he's kind of retreating back, which concerns the Republican Party, myself included, by not getting out there and throwing back out those punches and saying, wait, Obama, you know, you flip-flop on this. Now you're into the center. You're taking a page out of the Reagan books. You know, you're trying to get the Reagan Democrats.
Well, has he lost it, or do you think we can still see that?
I think you can still see it. I think, you know, at one point he was like, let's all get along. We have to get past that. I don't want to get along right now with the Democrats. I want to win. That's where I'm at.
Present company now.
You know what I'm saying?
$22 million he raised in June. They say he's on track to be competitive with Obama. Some people say that's wishful thinking. But whatever the case, is that the hand of Mitt Romney behind that?
You know what? Some of it is. And I feel strongly about that. And also, McCain
in a positive or negative way?
In a positive way. And I'm glad you said that, because then people are going to come after me and say, you are negative. But it's real positive because people are coming on board with McCain, the money folks, the people that can raise the money. He did very well here in Pennsylvania. The last fundraiser, $1.5 million, where Obama only raised $800,000. So we're on the move with that. And we're ready to let people know we can raise the money, and we are coming together.
Ups his vice presidential nominees, but there is an oops, and that is on the McCain campaign. Phil Gramm told a number of people that he thinks the economy's sort of mental right now, or the problems with it, and that Americans are whiners.
A nation of whiners. I mean, this is going to be the Achilles heel of the McCain campaign. This is my prediction. That famous phrase that occurred sometime in the last several months in which John McCain said, I don't know much about the economy. And this is the caliber of advisor that he has attracted to his campaign. I think this is bad news for the McCain people. I think we're going to see a lot of commercials with those, and I'm going to go back to the World War II expression, loose lips sink ships. And I think the McCain ship could be sinking just based on that one phrase alone.
No, I totally disagree with that, because that little phrase, of course, they're going to run it up for the next couple of weeks, and then they're going to move out and go to the next issue.
He ran an ad this week, did he not, earlier in the week, about his economy plan, and a bunch of economists backing it, and some of those economists said, I don't back all of it. I don't like this or I don't like that. I like that aspect of it. I mean,
there has been some mistakes made, just like they have with the Obama piece. And I think that's going to happen, and we're still early in the campaign, and people are going to correct those things, and we're going to do better. We better do better.
All right,
those things
John
with those
McCain,
surrogates.
campaigning instead of voting. FISA, Medicare.
He missed out on some serious votes, real serious votes, because people are watching every little thing. But
Those votes weren't needed, by the way, on those issues.
Exactly, and he felt that he spoke to his folks and he didn't need to be there, and they made a campaign decision. We don't need to be there. We need to be out in the field. We need to get those folks, because people are saying, I'm not doing what I need to do, so I'm doing it. So you're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't.
But you could see Obama at the debate saying, well, at least I was there, showed up and voted on the FISA vote. Now, on the flip side, Obama voted for it, which is what he said he wouldn't do.
I know.
Flip-flop.
Well, we're back to the notion of refining positions. I mean, I'm personally troubled by the way that this is broken down, in part because I do think that American civil liberties and constitutional rights are under siege in the United States right now, and this is yet another reflection of that. So I personally am just not happy with that outcome. But having said that, you know, Obama, at least, as he said, did show up and did vote.
All right, more when Live at Issue comes right back. Stay tuned.
Flip-flop.
Get your cell phones out.
Here's your chance to interact with your favorite NBC 10 news shows. All that and more. The 10 Show. Sports Final. All you have to do is grab your mobile phone and text News 10. That's 639-710. Feedback, polls, sweepstakes.
It's your chance to have a say in what you see.
And maybe win some cool stuff.
Just text News 10. That's 639-710. Standard text messaging rates apply. It's just one more way you can turn to NBC 10. For more information, turn to NBC10.com.
Maybe it's where the kids do their science homework, or where you celebrate your child's birthdays. A haven where the family gathers for a Sunday meal. It's the setting where you share a candlelit dinner. Always make it special with casual sets and formal dining rooms from Raymore and Flanagan. Come in today and find your perfect setting on sale, delivered to your home in 3 days or less. Raymore and Flanagan. Now that's furnishing your style.
It was a time of uncertainty, hope, and change. The summer of love. Half a world away, another kind of love. Of country. John McCain. Shot down, bayoneted, tortured. Offered early release, he said no. He had sworn an oath. Home, he turned to public service. His philosophy. Before party, polls, and self. America. A maverick, John McCain tackled campaign reform, military reform, spending reform. He took on presidents, partisans, and popular opinion. He believes our world is dangerous, our economy in shambles. John McCain doesn't always tell us what we hope to hear. Beautiful words cannot make our lives better, but a man who has always put his country and her people before self, before politics, can. Don't hope for a better life. Vote for one. McCain.
I'm John McCain, and I approve this message.
You're watching NBC 10, Live at Issue.
Back on Live at Issue with Democrat Donna Gentile O'Donnell and Republican Renee O'Moore. You know, in NASCAR, they call this a silly season because a lot of things go on at this time of year. Maybe this is all in the silly season, but a lot of people also see there's some seriousness in it, and the issue is race. And this week, Jesse Jackson made the comment that I think we're all familiar with now. And how do you look at that comment, Renee? Do you see it as an example of there is a division that people aren't talking about?
Oh, I think it's definitely a division. And Jesse Jackson is always one that will bring up a division, no matter what. And some people feel like Jesse Jackson in my community, you know, and they feel that Obama has not really reached out to African Americans in particular, or minorities. I mean, you saw a Muslim group being very upset with Obama. When he comes to Philadelphia, he really has not been in the black community. I spoke to some of his staunch supporters, and they basically said, well, Renee, he can't, because then he'll lose the white vote. I mean, so what are they really doing? What are they really saying? The message. They feel like they're patronizing to our community.
Well, you know, I think he does need to do a better job of reaching down to the lower rungs of the economic ladder. And he is doing that. I mean, in some instances, I think he's been very effective at doing that. In fairness to Jesse Jackson, I mean, there were those off the camera, off the microphone conversations that people have that are very frank, that are very open, and he was caught in one of those moments, and it was a mistake.
But that's how he really feels. That's how he feels.
And this elitist thing, Michelle Obama this week was criticizing the Bush stimulus check of $600 and said, what are you going to do, go out and buy a pair of earrings?
Well, that looked bad as far as I'm concerned, because then on one TV show she's showing where she wore a 149 dress. I mean, again, she's just like her husband doing a flip-flop. 1 minute she's talking about buying $600
Wait a
earrings.
minute.
The second
Wait a
minute she's
minute.
talking about wearing clothes that all people can afford. They're really not looking at the grassroots. I don't care what people say, Donna. They're not looking at
Wait
it. They're
a
not
second.
dealing
First
with
of all,
middle class
John
or
McCain
grassroots
lives
folks.
a charmed life. He
And
is
so does
married to
Obama.
one of the most wealthy women in
Okay,
America.
and that's her
They
money.
have,
And that's
well,
her money.
good. I'm
That's
glad
right.
she
And she
went.
looked really
I'm
good,
glad
too.
she went to hang out with some regular folks. I
And
think
they
that'd be a
have
good
been.
thing for all of them.
But
for
are we
all of them to
reporting
do.
on these spouses the right way? Because, for example, the report on with Obama, we're talking about what she's wearing with Michelle Obama, with Mrs. McCain, with Cindy McCain. They talked about the fact that she had designer jeans on and things of that nature. I mean, is this, again,
It's
silliness?
come down to that. As far as fashion and that whole thing, that's what they're doing.
All right, really quick, we only have a few seconds left. Ralph Nader, 6% in the polls. Is he a threat?
Pay attention.
All right,
They
Bob,
better pay attention
Bob
to him.
Barr, the Republicans aren't challenging him in states.
Absolutely not, but they better be careful,
You know, when
because
you
he could
see
do anything. Either one of those candidates could just come up and jump and take some votes that we need, and we need to watch them both.
And John McCain will be in Wilkes-Barre, scheduled to be on the 23rd of this month, and they're
Absolutely.
both going to be here, as we said before, close to 50 times
That's
between
right.
now and
And we'll
November.
be out in the grassroots community.
All right, thank you both for being here. We'll talk to you again. That's it for this edition
She's gotta
of
get that
NBC 10 Live at Issue. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Highsmith, and enjoy your summer.